when it comes to premium tanks, and especially free ones, as this is the season rank 100 reward. This one is certainly one of the most powerful that I've seen in a long time, and it's actually a really fun one that you can actually jump into, and you will definitely be able to be competitive in the game. You will be able to be mobile for a heavy tank. It has decent armor. It's a very good all-round heavy tank, and that's why I absolutely love it. And of course it is the Carnarvon Action X, and the reason why I find this tank to be so good is because it has all of the features that you'd expect from a typical heavy at tier 8. You know, it has okay armor, it's nothing outstanding. No tier 8 heavy really has unbelievable armor, etc. But the good thing about this is that it gets all of that, but it also then gets this amazing main armament, which allows you to reload so quickly and allows you to have damage per minute that a lot of vehicles in the game at medium level would love to have. And that's really where this tank is a game changer, and especially if you can get hold down with this thing, because not only does it get a very good amount of gun depression, it gets a really good gun, it also then gets a brilliant turret, at least for the most part, because you do have a weak point which can be penned pretty reliably when it comes down to the top of the turret. It has a cupola on it, but it's not too much of a problem that you're going to be really worried too much. Now you're seeing here going into the Tiger, and of course the Tiger at tier 7 is a vehicle you'll meet quite often, but the problem with the Tiger is that it's just not a Carnarvon Action X, and although it has very good rate of fire for a tier 7 heavy, it's got nothing on the rate of fire of the Paladin or the Carnarvon Action X. This is the skinned version, just so that you guys know. It is the same tank, it literally just has a skin on the tank, but the tank is the exact same. So regardless of that, what we have in this video is two games. I wanted to showcase that this tank is really good, but also that it can be played very well if you do utilize the core aspects of the tank. Of course, making sure that you put yourself in a position where you're going to be able to deal damage consistently. Now in this game I'm thinking we really need to help over this side, because there's a heavy tank, there's a tank destroyer and stuff that are going to be a pain in the backside for our team. I'm skeptical as to whether or not this EOC even 90 is actually just going to hide away. We go for a shot on the side of the Skoda T56, which of course doesn't actually hit, which is just perfect. But don't worry, because 4 seconds later you're pretty much fully reloaded, and we're going after the rest of the vehicles over on this side, and hopefully we'll be able to finish off some of them. Now it didn't go ideally, because we'd have wanted to hit multiple of them, take some of them out maybe, but we have done 2,800 damage, and we finish off the enemy EOC even 90 right there, just to help out one of our teammates in the TA MK, which was, or Ramrod was it? I don't even know at this point. I'm pretty sure it was a tank when I was playing, but 3,000 damage done. Really nice game. Of course, most tier 8s would be pretty happy with dealing 3,000 damage, but it's at this point you'd be hoping to go the extra step, and unfortunately for the J Panther 2, he doesn't get a turret, and of course gets sent back to the garage. And now it's a 5 versus 8 scenario, which is, I mean, it's not good, is it? But it's not unwinnable when you're down by, you know, 3 or 4 tanks. It's when it starts to become, you know, 8 against 1, 6 against 1. It really starts to become an absolute struggle. But with the Skoda T56 pushing way too aggressively, considering he was on basically a one-shot for the entire team, yeah, it didn't end up going very well. But we just try and go for the T32 there, get him out the game, and then we can kind of push forward. And I'm thinking at this point, I've got a pretty decent game under my belt. And we've also got a ton of health. We've got 1,000 hit points still left to trade. Of course, we've blocked 1,000 damage as well, and got a little bit of assistance, and we'd be hoping to push forward and get some extra damage and assistance potentially. Now this is a really good spot that you can use if, for example, the Centennial or someone in your game actually ends up where the Centennial was on the enemy team. I didn't actually know about it till this game, but it was a nice little spot, so you know, we'll be using that in the future. But now it's not looking so good. It's 3 versus 6. It's starting to get a bit more hairy, and hopefully will be able to get at least a few shots of damage. The AMX-1375 gets taken out by our EOC even 90, so perfect. But we do have a tank destroyer in our base who's hoping to avoid the shells, but unfortunately for him, he is taken back to the garage, and I decide, oh, maybe I'll go and help out with this P43 TER. I don't want my teammate to get taken out. I know that if you do play together in like unison, you're going to have a way better chance of coming away with a win, but he actually ends up taking himself out, which is just perfect. Exactly what I wanted at this point in the game, but we go for the shell on the P43. Maybe we can take him out before the game ends. There's someone behind me, but I needed to get him out, otherwise we might not have an easy chance. And then the EBR on the enemy team, Hellboy, don't know whether this guy was a good player, but at least he knew how to drive around, which definitely helped him out. But yeah, we are not an absolute bot, so we can free aim and also turn the hull and tracks of our vehicle at once. And then of course we low roll, which leaves him alive, but don't worry, we still hit him anyway. And then right at the worst moment of time, the Barras turns up and hits us as well. So not ideal whatsoever, but you know, had we had maybe one tank just to help out, or maybe if we hadn't been caught out by the light tank on the enemy team that's an autoloader, it might have gone a different way. But we still come second, even though we lost, with almost 5,000 damage, and a really decent result either way. But hopefully that was a good indication as to the tank in a losing match. Let's jump into another match before we end up this video. Now then, what about a bottom tier game to see how this tank performs? Because it is not a preferential matchmaking vehicle. You do come up against tier 10s, and of course you're probably more likely to come up against tier 10s right now during the game, since there's a ton more Centurion AVREs in the game at the moment. But either way, we will hopefully be able to come away with a victory and showcase why even in this bottom tier matchmaking where things aren't necessarily going to go your way, you can still come away with a good result. Now, something weird that was happening in this game is that there were just tier 10s and then tier 8s, no tier 9s in the game for some reason, because Wargaming's matchmaker is completely not broken or completely just messed up, or whatever you want to call it. But yeah, no tier 9s in the game, just tier 8s and tier 10s, because yes, perfect matchmaking as usual. Now, in a tank like this, we are hoping that we will be able to push over on this side. I was hoping maybe we could duke it out with some heavies on the corner, but at this point I'm thinking that's probably not the best idea, since we don't really have armor in a tier 10 game, because you will get penned by everything, including like tier 9s if they hit the hull armor of this tank. Remember, it's only a Carnarvon, and so you don't particularly have the best armor in the first place. But hopefully you can make up with the fact that you don't have armor with much better gun handling, which allows you to get more damage on the opponents that you're facing. And yeah, that's the key aspect of the Centurion, or not the Centurion, but the Carnarvon. And of course you can see us here just farming away some of the opponents. Now there are some snipers at the back who decide to hit us, and then luckily we actually repair after we've been ammo-racked and tracked, which is nice, because that could have been very, very painful, and it actually saves my game right there. So I was just double checking where the enemies were being, so I highlight to my team that there are some people over in the area across from us. It's always good to do that if you do have time, and if you're not necessarily in the line of fire directly, as being a useful thing to do. And also just pinging where people were after you die. Maybe if you get taken out, just ping the last known location, so your team can know where or when the enemies might have taken you out, etc. So either way, 942 damage done in a tier 10 game. It's pretty mediocre, but maybe that will all change as we push forward and the game gets a little bit closer. Now this is a fairly, not necessarily a long battle, but it's one that is, it takes a bit of planning as to what you want to do in the game when you are low tier. Of course you cannot do what you usually do if you're bottom tier in a game, and so you have to be a little bit more hesitant. As you can see me here, if I was in a top tier heavy, I may think about just going off down, not necessarily straight towards me, but going over to the left and that sort of thing. But if you do come up against a tier 10, it's not good whatsoever, and instead we actually pick up a decent chunk of damage on the Somua. So over there where the VKP is, where I would usually go in a heavy like this, but either way, we're now just trying to focus on the T62A, and some of the vehicles that might be across from us is easy damage. There's no need to try and reinvent the wheel. If you know you've got some people sat in front of you, you don't have to do anything special. Just make sure that you hit them every time. And yeah, I mean, brilliant aim from me there, unfortunately. And then we only end up tracking the T62, which kind of sucks, but he still does get taken out. I try and go for a YOLO shot on the GW. Unfortunately for us, he's not actually available to be hit. But now I'm deciding, maybe it is time for me to push up. There's still 2 tank destroyers in the game. I wasn't sure if they'd been spotted at this point, so we don't really know where they are, so you've got to be a little bit careful. Tank destroyers being the tanks that usually have the most alpha, but in a tier 10 game, things like an E100 would be awful to come up against as well. So you just have to be wondering what sort of tanks are going to be the biggest pain in your backside. Now, I was tempted to go back for the 780, but at this point I'm like, nah, I want some damage. We'll go in after the rest of the vehicles on the side, and also I'm able to spot for the team, who will be able to provide cover, since pushing from J4 and 5, where the team appear to be, is not a good spot to push from, because you've got things like the Stone Cold here, who will outspot you, and they then have the hill, and in the words of Obi-Wan, he has the high ground, so don't try it. And that is usually a good stigma, at least something to think about when you are playing World of Tanks. If you are pushing up a hill, it's usually a bad thing, so don't try it. And yeah, hopefully you guys will remember that one. For those of you that are Star Wars fans, I don't even know if you are, but yeah, it's there for for the meme value either way. But we've managed to pick up 3,000 damage in this result, and so I'm thinking, oh, I'm able to actually hit the 780. So, you know, at least we may not have gone back to actually deal with the 780, but we ended up taking him out, since this position's pretty good anyway. I would be lying if I said I went here just to be able to do that. That is not the case, but at least we were able to help out the team and of course finish him off. I'm sure that they would have been able to deal with him, since there is a tank destroyer, there was a medium, and there was 2 artillery pieces, but you never know on World of Tanks. And yeah, so luckily we were able to deal with him. But we've done 3,500 damage now with 640 assist, so just over 4,000 combined damage. And I'm hoping now we'll be able to push over here, since that's where the enemies were last spotted. There is a tank destroyer and also a medium, the medium being a Ragnarok from what I can remember, or a 50B even. And I decided, oh, maybe we could actually take a shot at this 50B, and then we end up not being able to hit him. I then realise, uh-oh, there's a T92 to my left, and I'd been completely oblivious since I was scared of the AMX 50B coming after us, but some lovely little shot through the tracks tracking the T92, and oh no, the little horrible artillery piece is getting tracked and caught out in the open, and then he decides to fire, so we go, I'm going to have some more of him, and then realise that the T28 Prot is deciding he's going to YOLO me, which isn't the worst play, but I mean, it's not ideal for us, and we get taken out. But don't worry, it's not like we lose. Our team then just come in and sweep up the guy that has eyeballs on his tank and has been camping in spawn, so don't worry, I did get taken out by that guy. But either way, our team pushes in, gets the victory. Of course, victory screen right there. Picked up 4,660 damage, 2,072 base experience, so a very good game. 2 kills and 1,100 assistance, so quite possibly a better game than the previous, since it was a tier 10 game. And hopefully that shows you that the new season pass tank at rank 100 is not a new tank, but it is a tank that you should definitely make sure to test out when you do manage to get it in the game, if you haven't already. But there you go, the Paladin, or the Carnarvon Action X, really fantastic vehicle, and hopefully you guys did enjoy this video, and hopefully you'll check out another one soon, and I'll see you there. Goodbye.